to reach your goal. That's very important because there are many things to learn, but you need to know by yourself what you want to learn and what you need to learn is the right track.
Excellent. Let's give her a hand. Yes.
Yeah, I think on challenging things is very similar. I mean, in a world of tech and startup, things change quickly. So the world today is very different than, for us, is very different than what the world was like 2 months ago. And it's literally just 2 months. So I think ability to adapt, to always be on top of what is going on, those would be our challenges going forward. For a piece of advice, I believe that it's really important wherever you go or whatever career you choose to know your why and your purpose and why you want to do it. It doesn't have to be the same. It can be, as you heard from many people on the panel, their drive are different, right? It doesn't have to be the same, but you have to know it, whatever it is. Because in entrepreneurship, and I believe in a career in general, there will be a lot of downs as probably a lot more than there are the ups. In the startup world, you don't hear about that because people always just want to say when you fundraise or when good things happen to you because those are stories people want to read. But when your key employee resigned or when you have to cut down on costs, nobody reports about that. So I would say that the only thing that will get you through those tough times emotionally is for you to go back to why you're doing certain things and connect it to something bigger than yourself. That is the only way that, at least for me, has gotten me through certain difficult times. So know your why, and it's okay if you don't know it now. You can try a couple of things out along the way, but I think that at the end of the day, that's important.
That's so critical, passion. Okay.
Okay. Challenges for my company. Technology moves pretty fast. I have to move faster. Okay, so that's hard. And the other thing, I have to teach my country how to use that technology. It's not just my company, then I have to teach the consumer, and that part is super challenging. That's for my company. And okay, piece of advice, every time you think of entrepreneurship and you think it's hard, I urge you to think it's harder than you imagine. And this is not a way of telling me you to run away from entrepreneurship. This is a way of me telling you to grab the real thing, because everyone now is speaking about entrepreneurship and how good and great it is. And it is. You may say, no, it is good, it is great, but it needs so much discipline and so much responsibility that we sometimes forget that in order to achieve what we feel here. And that's amazing. But it's a no long-term situation, so it is hard as it is rewarding. And on the other hand, this is not a piece of advice, but I really want to thank what you're doing here for you, Irene, and everyone, because you're not measuring how powerful this is to women like me that had to literally run away from their home to pursue a business imagination role model. And please, every time you come to these things, share, talk to a friend, I don't care if it's a woman or a man, because you don't know how many stories you're changing. You, just by sitting here, you're validating stories like mine that went through a lot of pain, and you're validating our brave decisions like running away from home. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this. I'm getting sentimental. Thank you.
And thank you all for being so inspirational. So let's take our first question over here on the right, my right.
Thank you very much. My name is Muang from Burapha University. I need to give a compliment that for sharing very inspiring and insightful story for all of you. And I think everyone in this place would be benefited more if you could share a story for all of you that you think is the worst mistake or decision, and how do you deal with that? Thank you.
Great question. Anybody want to bite?
Okay, I can start, but you need to. Okay. I have way too many as well. Okay, I'll talk about this one. I also have alcohol companies. I don't know why, but alcohol suits me in a business way. And in Mexico, we pay a special tax for business, for alcohol business. And I was super young. I didn't know. I didn't made a correct research, and my mentors didn't mention it as well. So I started selling, and I was super happy, and I was like, wow, I'm getting a lot of money. True story. And then my accountant just sat one day and told me like, okay, this is your profit. And I was like, no, it's not. And he was like, yes, it is. And I was like, no. And then I received through email a letter, a really nice letter from my government telling me like, hey, you own like a lot of money. So whenever you want to pay, we'll be waiting. And I was like, what is going on? And then I knew that this was this special tax that I was not paying, and it was a beautiful 40% tax over my profits. So they, how do you say, like they froze my company until I paid. Beautiful experience. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share a worst mistake?
For FreshGet, I think in 2019, COVID hit us, right, the first year. And that time because we served the restaurant, and that time because of the lockdown. So within a day, the order from the restaurant decreased 80%. Right, because of the lockdown policy. So at that time, we have to pivot the model to serve the consumer instead of the restaurant within 24 hours, right? And the team is, we stretched the team so much, but they are very happy to do that, to secure everyone, or we need to just like lay off part of our employee, but we all help each other to pivot the business and secure the people. That time, at the same time, as a startup, we are going to run out of cash that time as well. I talked to my partner, okay, we have 6 weeks left, only 6 weeks left that time. So luckily, the way that we pivot to the consumer is a cash business, right? For the restaurant, we give them the credit, but for the consumer, they pay them. They pay us first. So it's a cash cycle is much better that time. So that's very challenging because on the daily basis, I have to operate the business, and at the same time, I have to talk to a lot of investors, pitching, because we have only 6 weeks left. And finally, we can get over it. Yes, we respond within 6 weeks.
Wow. So Sylvia or Yada, would you like to share?
Yeah, I think I have so many mistakes, but one that is super memorable is we hired a leader in a position that we really needed, and then they go ahead and hire their team. And it turned out that the leader was not a culture fit. They went and signed multi-million-dollar contract without getting approval from us, which of course we have policies and stuff, but she literally signed it and then sent it to the vendor. We found out, we asked her to leave. She left, and then she took half the team with her, saying that we, we weren't treating her right, etc. Took half the team with her, and then we are still having to pay for that because legally, an authority figure from our company have put a signature on a binding contract, right? So I think that was a mistake that is very costly, both because then I have to step in, stabilize the team. You know, when things happen, you as founders or leader, you have to do that yourself. And I think there was a misjudgment, which I initially thought that leader was very, very suitable and very good. But these things happen a lot, I believe, and by the second or the third time that it happened, you kind of know that you will deal with it and you will get through it, but the first time that it does happen is really tough.
Thank you. And so Sylvia.
I think my story is also human capital related because we have two financial stories. A few years ago, I was in my job, I already travel a lot because in real estate, you essentially have to be on site. And the site is spread around Vietnam, and our partners are mostly international, so I travel a lot. Essentially, back to your question earlier, I don't really stay at the office. I'm barely home. I think my assistants see me once a month. And at some point, a few years ago, I was very engaged in a lot of public speaking, a lot of leadership forum, a lot of, I would say, external validation of leadership. And then someone very close to me in my team wanted to quit. And that was right before I joined a leadership dialogue that was supposed to really validate how good I was as a young leader in Vietnam. And it came to me as such a shock before I went on this forum. And I really had a lot to think during this time. You know, that regardless of how I participate in a lot of things outside, it's not as rewarding as really taking care of my team back home. And I think everything always has to start with yourself, with your family, with your team, your company, and then you can spread your energy externally to the community. So that was a lesson I learned before COVID. Very quickly, I stopped myself from becoming a distant leader, came back home, reconnect with my team, and then COVID hit. And I think that was just in time to force me to really become a leader who is always home instead of always on the road. And now post-COVID, I'm trying to relearn the balance of how to be someone who takes care of things at home, and also managing my social responsibility. I think as with all women and as with everything, we are trying to learn this balance.
Thank you, Sylvia. And so in the middle here.
Thank you very much. I'm Anne. I'm from Germany. I'm studying here in an MBA, and I want to thank you a lot. I think this was the most inspiring session of all that I've heard today. I'm very proud to be here. I would like to ask you for one thing. Essentially, it's three. I have three questions, and I would encourage you to answer them with only one word. So the first one would be, what is the main characteristic of mindset that is crucial to success for you? Then the second would be, what is a tool to teach you a skill set that prepares you for the future? And the third one would be, what is the mantra that has accompanied you and led you to where you are today? Thank you.
Repeat them really quickly one more time while they're thinking.
I think we can answer by parts. Exactly.
Let's do one question.
Just one word, right?
Yeah. My answer to your first question is humility.
Present, be in the present moment.
Resilient.
I would say unstoppable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Second one? No, third one?
And
That
the
was a
second
tool.
question was?
Second question?
That was the tool that will lead you to a skill that will prepare you for the future. Like if it's a special book, if it's an educational portal, whatever.
Like reading could be an answer.
Yeah, sure.
Because literally I read one book every 1 or 2 weeks. I
Yeah,
love reading.
That would be
like reading.
a great tool to a skill set that prepares you for
I
future.
always read a professional book and then a personal book. Professional, personal. That's always been that way.